The sun is up, the day is wide open, and life still has so much to give. Every laugh, every step, every shared moment says the story is still unfolding beautifully. You are not finished yet. Your story continues.
Most people think life follows a straight line. Education, career, retirement. But for many, that line changes. Sometimes by choice, sometimes by circumstance, and sometimes by a moment they never expected. This is Not Finished Yet, a podcast about people who started again and discovered their most interesting chapter was still ahead. Each episode shares real stories of reinvention, the risks, the decisions, and what it actually takes to build something new later in life. Because the truth is, you're not starting from scratch, you're starting from experience. Can I just add that the views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily reflect those of any organisations, employers, or partners connected to them. Before we start, a quick note. A large number of people who listen to the podcast haven't yet subscribed. If you find these conversations valuable, hit subscribe or follow on your platform. It makes a huge difference and helps us keep sharing these stories. Now, let's get into this week's story.
Lovely. I think we're live. How are you? Okay, so welcome to Wes. Welcome to Not Finished Yet. Thanks for listening again. We'll get straight into it as we normally do. Most businesses don't fail online because of lack of effort. They fail because focusing on the wrong things. Today's guest has over 20 years in the trenches fixing exactly that. Wes Towers is a founder of Uplift 360, a digital agency focused on helping builders and trades turn their website into real measurable growth. No fluff, no jargon, just practical SEO, smarter website strategies, and that actually bring in the work. Wes didn't learn this in a classroom. He built it the hard way, trial error, fixing what broke, and doubling down on what works. And today he's here to share those lessons so others can skip the pain. I've been there, Wes, I'll tell you that now. So I could have done with you a little while ago. If you've ever wondered why your website isn't bringing leads and how to stand out in an AI-driven world, or what actually moves the needle online, this is a conversation for you. Wes, welcome to the show.
Fantastic to be here, Mark. It's we were talking just before the show, and you've got connections over here in my part of the world, being Australia. So well done on your business and so on. It feels as though the world's getting smaller, isn't it? The way we can connect through podcasts and so on.
It is. It's fantastic. The other podcast I do is in a studio, so it's nice to do this and to meet people around the world. And since we started this one, every kind of orifice of the world, if you like, we've meeted. But yeah, Australia's got a little bit of a place in my heart. You know, I've got a few friends over there in Perth, so say hello to them, and in Melbourne and Adelaide. You know, us, the Great Britain invasion, if you like, that happened 20 odd years ago, and or 30 years ago now, and they're still over there. So say hello to them. But let's get straight in. You know, learning the hard way, Wes. You know. You didn't come from a traditional marketing background. What got you started?
Yeah, well, I studied graphic design, multimedia at uni, and back in the day, this is the 90s I'm talking about, so websites weren't really a thing, you know. Talking to the careers counsellor, there was no such thing as website design courses or anything like that. You know, most businesses, some businesses would have had a website, but certainly wasn't the norm. I mean, so I studied graphic design and loved design, but I got a job in a marketing company doing the graphic design, and award-winning marketing company in Sydney, and but they'd never designed a website. So this was the year 2000. So it's remarkable how fast it feels fast to me, but since the year 2000, how much things have changed. These days, marketing is all online. It feels to a large degree, but anyway, I was there for a few months, I think, and they won a project to design a website. And they said, "Right, you're the young guy, better figure out how to build this site." So had no idea, but they were gracious in giving me plenty of time to figure it out, trial and error, as you say, and figuring it all out the hard way. Called some friends who had some experience in doing websites, and you know, it was different back then. It was chaotic. It was hard, but we built that site, and I found I loved the technical and the creative blend of activity. It was kind of how I was wired. So websites kind of found me, but really naively, a few years later, I launched my own business. So with only a few years' experience in that marketing company merged into another one, but pretty much the same thing. Only for a few years I was working there and launched my business. No idea how to run a business, no idea how to do a client meeting, or, even just basic things like putting a quote proposal together.
So I was going to ask you that, Wes. What were some of the early mistakes that shaped how you work today?
Oh man, so many mistakes. We could be here all night. Yeah, even just I didn't know how to quote or do proposals, and so I probably was underquoting it to a large degree. Just a lack of confidence as a young fella starting out. It sounded like a lot of money to me, but as you get into it, you realise, hey, it's not quite paying the bills, and you learn how things are actually done. But I guess one of the best things I did early on was join a networking group with a high caliber of people in the room. So you just kind of learn by observation, watching these guys who I felt were really cutting edge leaders in their fields, and just learning how they do go about doing their business and asking questions and figuring it out, and all that kind of stuff. But mistakes, man, the various mistakes, the roller coaster ride. I think every business experiences it to a degree. But hiring the wrong people early on, that was painful. Taking on a job that I shouldn't have taken on, was well outside of. Took it on for all the wrong reasons and nearly killed me. There's so many horror stories, pivots, changes in the way we do things, and fumbled and stumbled my way forward.
So with that networking, that initial networking, was it then that it clicked? You realised what actually works, or was it something else? What clicked when you realised, well, what actually works and what actually doesn't?
Yeah, there was, I suppose, lots of different little micro things that sunk into my thick skull. So certainly in those times there was, but I realised over the course of time you kind of listen to a lot of marketing material and study marketing because you need it for your own business, right? But then you also realize, hey, this stuff can apply to designing websites. It's kind of a big deal to understand marketing. So, but what I realized fairly early on was niching was really powerful. So once you understand a clear and precise niche, you can understand them to a really deep level. And therefore, what you learn for one company is usually transferable and translates into the next to a degree, so you can get some quick wins nice and easy. And that's why I really dove into the trades construction based businesses, because I just discovered nearly the majority of our better clients were all in the trades construction industry. And sometimes people assume that I had a trades background. I didn't at all. It was just that I related really well to these guys because they're typically guys, but there can be women in there as well, of course. But they're usually, hands-on, practical, down-to-earth, pragmatic. That's kind of how I'm wired, and I try to avoid all the techie jargon as well, because that's just unnecessary. At the end of the day, what people want is results and the end goal. They don't want to be delving into every little technical piece of software and so on. They want the results. So figuring all that out and matching up what people need with what we can provide, and figuring out systems to do that. It's been a wild journey.
But you're also creating a niche there, aren't you, with a customer-based niche, not just about expertise. You're keeping, and recommendations must come better that way.
Absolutely. Yeah. You get known for a certain niche eventually if you keep at it, stick at it. The big challenge is early on you feel as though you're cutting off so many other opportunities. But you are to a degree, but you're just amplifying and highlighting the core things that you do really well. And that's one of the horror mistakes I made early on as a young business person. The website that I took on that I should never have taken on, a massive project. I took it on because I had a lead developer at that time, and I could see he was getting frustrated and bored with the work we were doing. So this website, for a dating website, so completely not what we normally do. It came the opportunity to do a proposal. I did that. I got him to do it. I said to him, right, I've got no idea how to build this site. He said, well, I do. And I said, great. Thought it would keep him engaged in the company. So he did the proposal. I presented it. We won the job. And a couple of weeks in, he quit. And this was a job to take months, and I had no understanding how to build it. None of my team knew how to build it. So I just had to figure it out the hard way. And lots of late nights, lots of early mornings, no sleep. Delivered on the promise, the proposal I considered a promise to the client. We delivered on that and realised, hey, don't make that mistake again. Don't take on projects for all the wrong reasons. Stick to our lane, do what we're really good at, and continue on that path with serving the trades and construction industry.
Yeah. So what that sounded like a bit of a tough patch and a learning curve. What kept you going through that tough period when you were building the business then?
Yeah, so you kind of have to. So I was all in by that stage. When I started the business, I just eased in doing it in the evenings. But that only lasted a couple of years before I was fully fledged working for myself and then hiring some team members and so on. So I just realised, hey, what I have been doing up until this horror story of taking the wrong job was working really well, and just do more of what's working. But even more recently, speaking of pivots and so on, more recently, roughly 4 years ago, I was speaking to the business valuer, and he suggested how our whole industry is got the potential to be wiped out, through AI and so on. And I'd been hearing that on the media and so on. I think we all do, but you never really trust the media because they always exaggerate things because they're just trying to get more visits and clicks and whatever it is. So you never really trust media. But once an expert in the field of business suggested it, I thought, man, I've got to start figuring out how I realign the business. And so it was a massive, whilst the end deliverables, what we provide for clients is still the same, the way in which we go about it has changed significantly just due to AI and the software opportunities, and how we do all the standard operating procedures. They've all been changed, all been reworked. And up until that point, I'd built out everything according to what I thought was best. But I realised, hey, this beast is changing super fast. Not one person knows all the answers. So I brought in my team, and I feel foolish not bringing them in earlier because it was such a massive play, a big advantage to get their insights because they're technical people themselves. They geek out on this AI stuff just as much as I do. And so to bring them in and get their insights of what we could adapt and change was a massive influence on the business. And the business boomed since that time. So our most profitable year was just last financial reporting year, and this one should just beat it. Looking to build upon that. And so, sometimes the biggest challenges in your career or your business, doesn't matter what it is, when challenges arise, if you find ways to get through those challenges and reshape what you're doing, that's where biggest opportunities are.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that about AI because a lot of the listeners obviously we're over 40s. People are scared of AI now. Yeah. I had, the best advice I ever heard was, it's not AI that's going to take your job. It's the person who doesn't know who knows AI better than you, basically, or has learned AI. Now we've built an app through AI. I've done it myself. I've learned because I thought that's what I've got to do. Basically, go back. I was fed up of using what was out there in the industry, even if it was an AI-related customer service thing that didn't work the way I wanted it to work. So I sat down and done one myself. It is the way forward, and I think I think you have to adapt, don't you, and adapt your business into it. I think you'd be foolish not to change. But yeah, it's something that's a lot of people have mentioned on, and how frightened they are about it. But I want to get into a bit of your into your business model, really, and why people get it wrong online. So
Yeah.
and construction is close to my heart, right? Because obviously I've been in construction for 35 years. I mean, I do peelable coatings now, but before that I was a owner of a plant hire business, and I've been, in construction with a big construction business for 15 years. So it is there, and some of the things I was reading about what you said as well is true. But so why does so many construction and trade businesses struggle still online? Why haven't we picked that up properly?
Yeah. Well, it's good and bad, because what we can realize, if you are in a construction or trade related business, building materials, those sorts of things, chances are your competitors aren't doing all that well either. So you've only got to be better than your competitors. So that's one way of looking at it. But I suppose we tend to avoid what we don't understand. And so we work with a lot of founder-led businesses. So they work their way up. They got themselves a trade. They got themselves into some form of management into a company where they were working, and then they end up starting their own business. But so they understand their trade really well. And it's kind of similar to my own path. I had a skill set, but I didn't know how to run a business. You kind of figure it out on the fly. It's the same thing. If you don't really understand marketing or websites, then you tend to avoid them, and then matters just get worse. But the thing to think about is it's not as complex. And I think part of the challenge is too, a lot of agencies will talk a lot of jargon and overwhelm people with just stuff that is unnecessary, that doesn't really move the needle in terms of a business. So thinking through your goals and objectives, it's simple business philosophy, but thinking through what your core marketing message is and how you're going to communicate that through a website in a clear, concise, compelling way. And there's design techniques to help guide the eye through the design and what will help get the conversion rate optimization. There's proven structures in which we've all learned how to navigate a website, for example, and we know where we expect certain things in certain places. And so you want to follow that formula, because people are rushing online. So they're making decisions rapidly. They're not reading verbatim every word on your page. So you've got to design it in a manner so people can quickly grasp what it is you're doing and take action. So what's the call to action? Each and every page on your website should have some objective, and that's usually to get some form of inquiry if it's a sales-based page on your site. So you might be trying to get people to request a quote, proposal, book a time, whatever it is. It should be super simple for people to take action on that next logical step.
Is that the reason why so many websites look good but they don't generate inquiries? Is that the reason, or is there other reasons around?
It's one of the big reasons. Yeah. Yeah, so you can, and so sometimes and this is the danger of AI, because AI, you could potentially build your own website and it'll just do what you tell it to do, but it's not necessarily following the best formulas for success in terms of a conversion rate optimization. By that I mean how many people are making an inquiry or buying something as a consequence of visiting the site. So when you go out and design a site yourself, all you can do is go by the aesthetic, the look and feel of what you feel is visually nice, and it sort of matches what your business and brand is. But it's not following the structures and formulas that convert, and that's the biggest risk, just doing it yourself. And that's what I see with the potential downside of AI platforms, because they can do the technical aspect. People will go down that path and make some horrible mistakes. We just launched a website actually 2 weeks ago, and initially there was 2 directors involved and a marketing team. I was working with the marketing team, and the marketing team told me, hey, the directors want some sophisticated animation. So they were coming at it from the point of view that it would look stunning, and it could be, so they could brag to their friends potentially, I don't know, but it would look stunning. But that wasn't going to meet any business objectives. So it would make the site slower. It would make it hard for people to use, to navigate around, to find the information they're looking for. And it would just cause too much confusion. So we found a balance, because they were adamant they wanted some animation. So we we fulfilled that criteria, but we dialed it back a hell of a lot. Now, technically, we could have done it as they requested, but the guidance that we gave them is going to be far superior for what they're really wanting out of their website, and that's to grow their business. Because, man, I don't know what it is like in your part of the world, but with everything going on these days, construction particularly and trades are really quite concerned. Building materials costs blowing up already with the oil crisis and all of that going on, and there's that's potentially going to run for a long time. So, businesses have to really dial in to get their marketing right, to fight for that work that they can, whatever's out there. In boom times, you can let things slide a little bit because everyone's doing well, and businesses here in Australia, when it was really booming, businesses were able to turn work away because there was just too much of it. But these days, things have changed, and it's time to get your marketing right so you can, win the work that you can.
So, yeah, and I agree with you. We're all in the same position, I think, globally, talking to people at the moment, especially in construction and what's going on in the world right now. But so where are businesses wasting money right now, do you think?
Yeah, I would say the waste of money, it can be caused by a lot of things, and one of the big killers, I think, is when you go to an agency. Sometimes you go to an agency and you feel as though everything's being done within the agency, but actually what's happening is they're bringing in lots of different freelancers. They're managing it just fine, but by the time it'll slow the process down, and it's kind of second-hand information, and also they're adding margin and markup to everything. So at the end of the day, it's more expensive, and it's not what you're trying to achieve isn't being directly communicated to the people actually doing the work. So that's a massive challenge and problem in our industry. So working directly with an expert in the field who can understand your business really clearly and precisely is going to always be a massive plus. So that's where you can cut back on a bit of the waste, because you really do need to think about every dollar you spend, what's the return on investment for that spend, and it's quickly could be you can quickly waste a whole lot of money. Things like Google ads as well, any form of advertising. So sometimes if you get someone to do it if your budget's not big enough and you're spending a retainer to get it done for you, it's kind of like it doesn't stack up all that well. If you've got a big budget that you're spending $1,000 of getting it managed, it is fine. But if you're only spending $1,000 of ads, then you're doubling the cost of what it could have been. So there's the economies of scale that work, and in some circumstances, but not others. So it's just about figuring out what's going to work for your line of business, and where the best value will be.
How do you feel? I mean, someone said to me once, we was arguing about web traffic, and he said to me, my business doesn't have a traffic problem, but we've probably got a trust problem. How do you set that up? Do you deal with that kind of? How does somebody? Because we hit a website, don't we? What I'm trying to say is we hit a website, and how do we get that trust straight away? What is there any tricks in the trade that you can say that
It's the biggest thing these days, because trust is massively being eroded for a whole heap of reasons. But one of them is we don't believe what we read. We don't believe what we see. We know videos, they're not even necessarily the people that they perceive to be. So there's that lack of trust out there for anything that we view online, that we view anywhere really, but online certainly. So building trust is a core foundation for what we do in terms of the website, and core things that you want to do online are getting things that only you can do, and only any third-party endorsements are really powerful. So Google reviews, for example, they can't easily be doctored or manufactured. They can't be faked, so they're trustworthy. So the more of those you can get, obviously positive ones, the better. So it just takes a gentle nudge to your clientele or your customers to say, hey, do you mind leaving a quick Google review? Otherwise, they probably just won't. People are so busy, they just won't think about doing it. But if you've got a good relationship with them and you give them a gentle nudge to do that, they'll often do that for you. So those sorts of things. Anything that is third-party endorsement is really helpful. But also in the construction industry, if you've got wonderful case studies that you can showcase projects you've actually worked on. Say, for example, we've got another client who's built some pretty, been a part of building some pretty significant buildings around Australia, and they're recognised buildings, so they can just showcase this as case studies, and all of a sudden there's trust and authority built toward that business, because it's like, I know that building and it's a quality building, and I know these guys built it because that's what it is, and so there's that trust and authority built in that way. So showcasing what you're genuinely doing, showcasing what people say about you. There's word of mouth out there in every business and industry. It's just that we don't always hear it. But when we are able to find ways to collate it and publish it, that's a powerful move.
Mm. Well, look, I mean, so as the pod's about, I'm reinventing myself, and part I've chosen to go down this journey of maybe perhaps my own business, and everyone's got that. Well, I've had that myth in the past where you think you put your website up and the phone will start ringing. So let's get into what actually works. If someone's listening and wants more inquiries, what's the first thing they should fix?
Yeah, there's a couple of things that when I'm looking at a site, we do a bit of an audit, and there's things I see right away that are done not quite right. So one of the core things is, I think I mentioned it earlier, that putting things in places where people expect them, because that's where your eye will naturally go, because you've learnt to engage with the website in a certain way. So put things where they should be. So the logo would be on the left, the menu would run along the top. Even items in the menu, we've learned where they should be, and you shouldn't deviate away from that, because when people are navigating fast through a site, clicking on various pages, they want to find what they want to find quickly. So, for example, the contact page would be the last one. Say for example, someone's jumping on your site and they just want to get your contact info or your address and those sorts of things. They want to just find it super fast. You don't want to create any friction or anything that will distract people. The call to action button, top right. So that might be a request to quote, might be a phone number. That's the most simple one. But that's where people want to take an action step. The hero section on the website. So that's where you want a clear, concise, compelling message, so people understand exactly what you do, how why you do it, the core benefits, but then to take action. So the hero section being on your homepage. That's that first thing that you see just under the menu and header and so on. Those are the core foundational structures, but also the conversion rate optimization with the contact page. What you want to do is consider how much information you're requesting. So if the more you ask for, the less likely people will fill in the form. So it's about getting that balance right. Sometimes people are getting not enough inquiries, so it's about stripping back the form to make it feel simpler. If you genuinely need to ask for lots of information in the contact form, you can make it a multi-step form. So all of a sudden in someone's brain, it feels as though it's not so overwhelming, and it's been proven to convert a whole lot higher. So you might break the questions down into 3 sections. So you fill out the first bit, press next. You've got it along the top 1, 2, 3, so you know there's an end goal. It's not a never-ending list of questions. So people will fill it in the conversion rate will be much higher. So these little things that you can tweak to get that improved. Sometimes, and it's more rare, but sometimes people will start to add fields to their contact form if they're getting the wrong kind of inquiry. The quality of leads isn't good enough. They're just getting an overwhelming amount of, say they're business to business, but all they're getting is mums and dads, business to consumer. They want to create the form so it filters out the wrong stuff. So it depends on what the problem is that you're facing, but those are some of the core things you're looking at that you can see visually, but they're also behind the scenes. There's just so much that can slow a site down, for example, make it slow, clunky. People aren't going to stick around if it doesn't load really fast. If it doesn't look right on the mobile, that's often a mistake people make because they're not checking their mobile properly. The other thing too, it needs to be look and feel similar if they're looking on the mobile phone, the cell phone, or the PC, because oftentimes this is what happens. People will research while they're on the train, for example, just while they're out and about, or they're laying on the couch in the evening. They're not going to take action, but they're just thinking about something, and the next day they'll look at it on their PC. So the multi-screens need to be in a similar fashion so that when they do go to that second screen, they can get to wherever they wanted to get to, and it feels and looks similar, so they can quickly do what they want to do. So all these little things that people make mistakes in, it's clear to us because we're doing it daily, but I can appreciate it's not so clear if it's not your game.
No, I understand. So, I was going to say to you, what would be one quick win most businesses can implement in like this week? But I mean, would you say recommend outside of that? You might have an answer for that, but would you recommend what you've just described as an audit process first?
Yeah. There's lots of we do website audits all the time, and we do them in a video format these days. So I used to do lots of written ones, but realised it was just way too much and it was overwhelming. But now I just record screen and I show people precisely what we think we should change. Just record, it's my mouse, it's me speaking through some ideas and suggestions of the tweaks I would recommend we make. Sometimes there's technical glitches behind the scenes as well. So it's just not showing up correctly in Google, for example. I mean, we took on one site, someone else designed it years ago, and that accidentally put a piece of code in to hide the site from Google. I don't know why or how that was put in there, but for all these years, Google was instructed not to show their website online, and they had no idea. So these are the hidden little things that can really go horribly wrong if you're not.
Sounds like a disgruntled employee there, don't you think? Who's left and added a bit of code in.
Yeah, I think what probably happens, so when you're developing a website, you hide it from Google because you don't want the development site showing up.
Yeah,
Just forgotten to toggle it back on, So silly mistake, the costly mistake. Who could have cost them thousands of dollars over the course of the years. Who knows?
So let's get a little bit technical because everyone's scared of SEO and AI and standing out. Is SEO still relevant, or is something replacing it?
Yeah,
and I mean that because there's a lot of push to get yourself recognised on the chat GTPs as well, isn't there now?
That's right. The answer engine optimization. There's other letters flying around, but realistically, the good news is they all kind of work the same in terms of the strategies to show up in Google or ChatGPT or any of the other large language models, because realistically they're all trying to do the same thing. So, and that's to provide the very best information for someone with some sort of need or inquiry. It's just that people are searching in different ways in different platforms for those needs, and so they're also searching with full sentences because most of us understand that. The tools understand the full context of a full sentence now. Back in the day, you might search for plumber Melbourne, let's say. But now if you've got a plumbing need and you're in Melbourne, you might search for exactly what that need is, the specific, taps or the specific problem, and the location as well. We would typically say, because people realize if they're looking for a service, they need it to be local. So yeah, the good news is it's the same thing they're all looking for, the quality content. So it's about writing the content in a manner where it's findable and you can be surfaced in all the right places at the right times when people need someone just like you.
So how do you keep that human in this kind of, and authentic really, in this kind of AI-driven world? Do you recommend people still write that or get AI to write that kind of content?
Yeah, it can be both. The real gold is using AI, but making sure it's in your authentic voice and style. So back in the day when we were working with larger companies, they would have a style guide, So all their content writing and everything really, but speaking to the content, it was always to the same style. You can use that same style guide, the same philosophy, but it's a massive prompt. So it'll keep everything in the same guardrail, so everything's consistent. And not like a copywriter who would read a style guide and forget. They'd get busy writing and doing the research and understanding the business and start writing, but they've forgotten what's in the style guide. The AI is not going to forget. So, well, it sometimes does forget, but you can just continue to put it in the safe guardrails of what you want it to do with the prompt. The danger is the AI slop that we're all seeing. So that's just the generic, bland information that people tend to publish, and that's caused by just relying upon the tool to do the thought leadership, to come up with the concept, the ideas, what you want to communicate, because all it can do is randomly pull in content from all over the web online and collate it into something perceived to be new, but it's not really new. It's just a collation of other people's ideas. But what you want to do is fuel the AI tools with your own genuine thoughts and ideas. And the way I would encourage people to do that is to start thinking less about typing into their keyboard, into their AI, different scenarios and questions and so on, and prompts, but to speak to it. Because when we're speaking, we'll tend to cover a whole lot more depth in what we're communicating, and a whole lot more nuance. So out will pop a far superior piece of content if you speak through the exact things you want to cover, and it'll help shape and guide it into a format and a structure that's more logical and sequential. But you can brain dump a whole bunch of stuff. I do it in the car all the time. Just brain dump a whole bunch of ideas, speak to my phone, my ChatGPT. By the time I've got to wherever I'm driving to, I've already got a formulated great piece of content. It might be a blog post, for example, and it's ready, pretty close to ready to publish. Copy paste it in and away you go. So that's the way I would always think about it. Use AI, but make sure it's your unique ideas and make sure it's in your style and voice.
So how can a smaller business that, compete with bigger brands using AI, do you think?
Yeah, that's the big advantage of AI, because you can use it almost like an employee to a degree. You can just get so much more done in a short space of time. And once you set up some systems and processes in AI, I know this can be overwhelming and scary at first, a lot of people are talking about different prompts, and even some people are selling prompts and so on, to people, for people to use as if they're the perfect prompt. But think about it in a slightly different way. I believe you can get the perfect prompt by talking to your AI preferred platform. ChatGPT is probably the most popular. So you can say, hey, I've got this set process and system that I need to do recurring in the business. Ask me questions one at a time, so you understand precisely what I want to achieve, and create a prompt that I can use recurringly on an ongoing basis, and it'll do the work for you. So you haven't got to buy off the shelf prompts and so on that people are doing. The tools themselves will custom create them for you and guide you to do it. You've just got to set it on the path to ask you the right questions, and away you go.
Yeah, there is some. I think it's as basic as that as well. I think that people, and we've all made that mistake, is that we bought into different, like, wrapped versions of the same thing sometimes, and you're buying stuff that you don't need to buy. And you just got to find your way. I think you've just got to find your way, what works for you in the right way. Really, like, get that you could buy a tool for everything that you want to do in your life at the moment. It's kind of saturated out there, and a lot of it's just not worth buying. But everyone makes that mistake. I've done the same thing. So
yeah. So it's pretty exciting, realistically, for those that maybe are getting to the end of, not to the end, but to the second wave of career paths. If potentially you've worked in a high stakes role and you want to do something slightly differently, with the tools and capabilities out there these days with AI and other tools, once you figure out how to use them, you can run a pretty sophisticated small business with very minimal overheads and very little input from other third parties. You don't have to employ anybody and run, a pretty powerful little business once you figure out how to build it out and use the tools to build it out with your guidance, of course.
Absolutely. And, this project alone, this podcast alone is a I thought there's no point doing it if, about starting out again, if I weren't going to do everything myself and learn everything myself. So I've even using a bit of AI to edit the podcast, to help me with some of the social postings, from snippets from the podcast and stuff like that. So it's, if I can do it, anyone, they say, can do it. But yeah, so let's get into some business lessons, because you've been, the podcast is about when you have to start again, and we've had lots of guests on about how to train you do. So the interesting thing that I always thought about you was that, you've been doing it, and we need to bring guests on to explain, what you've done very well there, some help mechanisms to get people through when they're starting up again. But on a general life style growth, what is running a business, for those who haven't never one, for 20 years taught you about resilience?
Man, yeah, resilience is the key word, isn't it, for anyone running a business? I think it just amplifies everything in life. It just raises the stakes of, it feels like, of everything. I mean, if you get it wrong, it puts pressure on every other aspect of your life. Certainly, I mean, my health deteriorated for a while there. I blew out to a fair size, and because you get so engrossed in what it is you've got to do for business, and then family as well, which is obviously super important. And for me, it meant putting aside my health, which as we get over 40 and closer into 50 for me, you've got to start figuring out how to look after this stuff, because things start falling to pieces if you don't. You're just so much more vulnerable. So for me, getting some balance in life, getting to the gym. I only started going to the gym maybe 3 years ago now. I'd never been into one. I didn't know how to do any of the exercises and so on. But just getting there and making sure to build into these habits that help me clear my mind as well. Because with all the pressure of business, sometimes you can just get stuck on your computer all day and not even lift your head, it feels like, or not even eat. But if you've set aside the time, you're going to go to the gym, you're going to lift some weights, you feel so much better. So I think as we get on, I noticed a bit of an uplift in business as well, just getting my health right. So, maybe I was just thinking clearer. I was just more efficient and effective by getting some of that stuff right. But yeah, life throws at you curveballs. As we age, we all have different challenges. I got divorced a few years back as well. That was a story for another day maybe, but that was a horrible time as well. So there's all these things. Life throws up at you curveballs all the time, and you got to have resilience to stick at it, and keep your business going. Come out the other side better than you were before is the goal.
So in your opinion, having been in business 20 years, what separates businesses that survive from those that don't?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. So I think, I've seen all sorts of businesses come and go, and for various reasons they fall to the wayside. There was one that just springs to mind, an electrician I worked with, a young fella starting out, grew really, really fast, and he hired a whole bunch of team members, and eventually he purchased vehicles for all of them, brand new vehicles. But it was just too much too soon. So he obviously got his numbers right. So whilst he was growing in terms of the workload, the numbers were not quite right, so it sunk him, and he folded, and I think he might have moved interstate or overseas or something. Just had to set up a whole new life because of everything that went on. So there's those sorts of things, not really understanding the full context of everything that's going on in your business, the cash flow, mitigating risks can be a big one too. Things change all the time. I mean, things are changing fast right now. Obviously, we've got the AI going on. We've got oil problems, which dovetails into building materials problems. All material, everything's going to go up in price, and so how we deal with that as businesses, incredibly difficult. There's always headwinds, isn't there? And even in the state we're in Australia, it just feels as though I don't want to get too political, but it feels as though there's just so much opposition to businesses and trying to be successful. There's just it feels to me in the state of Victoria, there's no support for people like us trying to make a way, trying to create opportunities and jobs and stuff like that. But these things we've just got to battle through.
I think that's relevant here as well. I see that there's very little support. It's like they seem to want to raise money by tax rather than encourage people to, to go out there and be entrepreneurial, set up their small business and look after themselves. It seems to be they'd rather tax the people that are doing quite well. But so with this noisy, and it is noisy, how do you keep things simple then when everything online and offline feels noisy? Is there a way to do that?
Yeah, simple. It's a really important thing. I wrote a book, probably must be 10 years ago now, The Simple Manifesto. So I really do believe in simplifying things where you can, and that's a difficult beast to manage. But it just simple, in my view, just means clarity. The more simplified you can make something, the clearer it is. And so even to the degree in which you simplify it, it's almost like decisions are made already before you need to make them, because you've already decided this is the values, these are the goals, this is the objectives, and it's clear. So anything that pops up, if there's opportunities, you can say, does this fit within what we're trying to achieve? A simple, clear direction. If it doesn't, you don't take that decision. But if it does, it's on the right path. So you can only do that with precision if you've got that clear, simple vision for your business and your life, really.
Yeah. I think. I think that's good advice. So what we normally do near the end here, Wes, I don't want to keep you. I'm very conscious about that cold beer waiting for you. Wherever you'll be going. But a man of your age going out at this time, and I've got to question that as well. I think
I'm not
Friday
going to
night.
go out. It's in the fridge there. That's all right.
But no, there's no problem with that. So I always do a quick fire round. So just as you feel it, just say it. Just to do that. So one marketing myth that needs to die.
That you need to be on every social platform, all the time.
Right. What do you need to be on then? If we pull it that way.
You can have a presence there, but you don't need to be on them. You can use tools to publish to all the platforms super fast and schedule it in, so you're not distracted every minute from every ping of everything that might be said on social media, and not distracted. Yeah.
What you spoke about the website, getting that right, or SEO, which matters more?
They both matter a lot, but usually one's broken more than the other. So whatever's not working. So if your website is getting lots of traffic but not any conversion, well then the website needs work. If the conversion rate's pretty good but there's just not enough of it, then you've got to get your optimization right to get more eyeballs there. So it just depends on what's broken in a particular scenario. Both are really, really important in my view.
So the biggest waste of money for most businesses, in your opinion?
In marketing or just in general?
In general, maybe, yeah, whatever you want to.
Biggest waste of money. Yeah, I think some of the most successful business people that I know run in pretty rough looking offices. I think there's a whole lot of companies wanting a really slick looking office that actually gives no value. They're in positions where parking is a nightmare. All these, the smart people are running it just simple offices that serve them well, but everything's easy.
Makes them look good, but it doesn't mean that they are, and they're not being that successful. Yeah. So
Yeah,
one thing every business should do today.
Hire
Could
me
be
to
your
get a website. No, every business should start, if they're not already started, or think about AI and where their industry might be going and how they're going to get themselves positioned, ready to make the most of the opportunities.
So this last one, this is always because you sometimes get many bits of advice, but the best bit of business advice you've ever had.
So much advice here. You're right. Best advice was to get along to that networking group. I had no idea about networking at all, but I think building around yourself a network that can be a formal group that you just join, or just a collection of friends who kind of understand what you're doing, so you can learn from them and they can mentor you and encourage you along the path.
Closing, just quickly, where can people find you, learn more about you? We'll put all the tags at the bottom in the chat. We'll put your website, what you're looking for from today, all of that.
Yeah.
Are you interested in people from around the world who we are interviewing around the world getting in touch?
Yeah, absolutely. So uplift360.com.au is the website, and you can book a strategy call with me. And if anyone does jump on there, they will see a whole bunch of brands we've worked with all around the world. There's probably brands you recognise there even as well. So yeah, happy to talk to anyone. In our trades, construction, building materials, those kind of industrial brands is what we serve the best.
Excellent. So any final messages to business owners trying to grow right now? Anything?
No, that's it. I think it's been a fantastic conversation. I'm off to have a beer, so that's the most important thing on my agenda right now. Thanks, Mark. Thanks for the opportunity.
I think that's always the best advice. If you're trying to grow, at the end of the week, you've got to go and have a beer. I think that's a good bit of advice. So if there's one takeaway from today, it's this. It sounds like stop chasing everything, trying to keep all those social platforms going and focus on what actually works. But Wes is showing growth doesn't come from just doing more. It comes from doing the right things better. I think that's fair to say. So Wes, thanks for coming on. It's been absolutely brilliant.
Thanks, Mark. My pleasure.
Yeah. Well,
thanks so much for listening to Not Finished Yet. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you hit subscribe so you never miss a conversation. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, share it with them. Please see the links to all our socials. Until next time, remember, you're not finished yet.